Hello and welcome to Crappy Hour. I'm Ben. That's Ronnie. We're here on Instagram Live. We're simulcasting over to YouTube. Hi, everyone on YouTube. YouTube sounds fine, says Marcel, by the way. Hi, Marcel. What a week. This is such a week for Bravo because in true Bravo fashion, we have almost all the varsity housewives are airing this week. We have premieres, we have finales, we have reunions, we have BravoCon, and we even have Scandal in the news. So it's a real gift. I feel fortunate that we get to do a Crappy Hour this week on
It's
Bravo.
a bounty, okay? It's a bounty. If this were the Hunger Games, we all be killing each other to get to this fucking bounty in the middle of the stage or whatever. It is a bounty.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so this week we're not going to be covering a couple of things. We're not doing Below Deck and we're not doing Winter House this week because guess what?
Right.
The housewives are insane right now, Madison. And we have to do them. We have to do them all. We've got Real Housewives of New York, which just ended. Thank you, Jesus, for really. You know what? Thank you for everything you've given us, especially the end of that finale, that reunion.
Yes.
As wow. Good night. Take a nap.
Good night.
Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
We have the Miami. Hi, Lindsay. We have the Miami premiere coming up this week. We've actually already seen it, and we can report that it's great. It's great. And when we say it's great, we're not being like Andy Cohen, being like, well, this just in, the new RHONJ is in, and people are obsessed. No, it's a good premiere. I literally just choked doing Andy Cohen right there.
That's really good. The English
telenovela this week
is back.
Okay, so obviously there was some big news this week, but we're going to start with some smaller items. They don't get lost in the mix. So one item that I feel like I thought was going to be a thing in the world of Bravo is this. Here's the headline. School resource officer injured after hit and run crash in Monk's Corner. Okay, this is an article from Live 5 News, the Low Country's news leader. And basically the article goes on to say that someone was like hit by a car, blah, blah, blah. You read through it. And then there's this little part at the end of the article that says, authorities say the registered owner of the vehicle is Katherine Dennis of Monk's Corner. It's unclear if Dennis was driving the vehicle at the time. I'm reading the news as if Thomas Rapinell wrote the news.
It wasn't clear to Katherine whether she was driving at the time. What are you doing?
Or if anyone is facing charges. Officials haven't confirmed if the suspect is the same person who stars in the reality TV show Southern Charm. So we don't know if this is the Katherine.
Well,
but it wouldn't be surprising if it were.
Well, here's the thing, just because we talk about Bravo, right? So if something big happens, people start dinging us. The first ding I got was Katherine killed somebody. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
Because, we're always wondering on this show, like when the first murder is or like the first housewife to die, which is so dark. But, of course you wonder that stuff because it's been a long time, right? But I was like, the first murder, Katherine murdered somebody. And then, of course, this is terrible to say out loud, but of course I was hoping it was Thomas, But then I read the article and it was a hit and run and it was originally reported that whoever she hit was dead. So thank God they are not dead. I mean, for them and for Katherine and for the kids, for everybody, for me. Like, what are my feelings in this whole thing? So thank God. But then I was like, a school crossing guard. I mean, come on. Could you have picked?
It's not been
somebody like more deserving. I mean, a crossing guard. Leave the damn crossing guard alone.
She was just in the neighborhood. So there is an
just happened to
note.
be in the neighborhood and hit a trash can, I think.
Not a good fall for Bravo stars in driving. But the editor's note says, an earlier version of the story incorrectly reported the school resource officer died from injuries. The officer received minor injuries in the crash. We sincerely regret the error. It's like, oh, someone had a bruise. Like, they died. It's like, how do you mess that up? Channel 5 in Charleston.
Yeah. So that was really sad. So hope she's okay because, all jokes aside, that addiction obviously, look, I'm assuming, I don't know that she was on something. I don't know. I guess that could get you into trouble. Allegedly, who knows? But I'm glad everybody's okay.
Yeah.
And I hope she's okay because one thing we haven't talked about a lot is Katherine not being on Southern Charm because I think a lot of the reason people haven't talked about this story is because Catherine has been such a mess, that it's like, Catherine did something bad. And it's kind of like Southern Charm. No one's really talking that much about Catherine missing because she was already kind of missing so much of last year, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that not sad, but I feel like no one came into the season saying what's the show going to be like without Catherine, or how's it going to be? I feel like the transition was very smooth and almost unnoticeable. Like you said, she was really not very present last year except for those meatballs. So, I don't know. So the Catherine, the post Southern Charm chapter for Catherine feels like it's off to a shaky start at best. Okay.
Wait, the what thing post Catherine? The Southern Charm season post Catherine?
The post Southern Charm chapter for Catherine.
Oh, yeah. Because Southern Charm.
I was just trying to sound academic and smart.
It wasn't you. It wasn't that you were too smart. I mean, you are too smart most of the time. Sorry for me because I'm stupid. But it wasn't that you were too smart. It's that there's a million things. There's YouTube. I'm reading comments on YouTube, reading comments on Instagram, and also mixing that time with being extremely proud of my Mugler. So it's really hard to concentrate.
All right, I'm going to see if there's any questions. Do people have questions? You can ask questions. I'm trying to find. There. Instagram hid them. No questions yet, people. Did I not turn
ask
the questions
some questions,
on?
people. Maybe
people ask us questions. Okay.
So another thing that happened is Shannon was arraigned today. Right? Was it today that she was arraigned?
In other drunk driving Bravo news.
Listen, while we're doing it, look, everybody take your defensive driving and get the Uber app or the Lyft app, really, or the Share app. Really, any DoorDash. Call a DoorDash to help you if you're too drunk to drive. Just call somebody, guys. So we're in 2023 now. Not to sound like Shannon, because that's what Shannon said when Gina got her DUI. Who gets a DUI this day and age? There's Ubers, and then watch, I'm going to get pulled over on something. But I
just want to point. Sorry.
Drunk drive.
I just want to point out. I want to interrupt you for 1 second.
But I have wanted to clip somebody before. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I did not need to interrupt you right now. What I was just going to say is that this is showing that there are a million questions, but when I click on it, it says no questions yet. So thanks, Instagram. Thanks, Instagram, for not actually showing us the questions that people have, showing us the notification that there are questions. But if we're not answering your questions, it's because Instagram is useless. So what I was going to say, but we do have questions here in the comments, which is, why did you leave LA, Ronnie? How about... this one says, did you see Lenny's mistress Halloween costume? Lenny's? Okay, I'm going to look this up right now. Lenny
Was it a sexy nurse?
Girlfriend costume. I'm doing it right now. We're gonna find out.
Okay. Lenny
this was
Hochstein girlfriend costume.
I'm not, you know what? I'm going to say I haven't because nothing's coming up. I'm going to assume it was a costume of Lisa. I'm going to say she was dressed as Lisa, and it was a terrible costume. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, so let's move on to, I want to move on to another piece of news.
Yeah, she's dressed like Lisa as the devil, from what I can see.
Of course. That totally tracks. Okay, so another piece of news is the Real Housewives of New Jersey cast trip has been canceled. So when I read that headline, I was like, oh no, like what did people do? Is this season so toxic? Like what is wrong? Is it so boring? Like I started imagining the worst. But then the story behind this is so Real Housewives of New Jersey, I almost can't even deal with it. Basically, they were going to go to the Berkshires. The Real Housewives of New Jersey cast was going to go to the Berkshires. And the place where they were supposed to stay burned down. It burned down the day they were going to go off on the trip. And there was not enough time, I guess, to get a hotel room or something like that or get all the clearances. And I feel like that is the most Jersey thing that could happen on a trip.
Yeah. Also, they were supposed to see Dorinda, so that's not good luck sometimes, because as we'll talk about later with the Vanity Fair article, a lot of bad luck surrounding Real Housewives of New York. But the Jersey news seems to be that since they kept both Melissa and Teresa for this season, which was ill-advised. They have kind of screwed the season because apparently they have shifted into two camps and neither will film with each other, and so it's been kind of a nightmare of a season to get on camera. So I assumed it was something like that.
Same.
There have been a couple wonky seasons of Jersey, but even in retrospect, those were kind of fun. Even the twins and Amber, I mean, Amber and Jim Marchese were awful human beings and got even worse once they left the show, but we still remember them, and that was 1 year.
Did you hear? It just occurred to me. I should put it in our document. I'm sorry, because I think I saw it when I was on the airplane, or I don't know. I was at the airport. I read that the gossip going into BravoCon this weekend is that there are two New Jersey panels because the cast is so divided, and they did a last minute switch, and that Danielle Cabral is on the panel with Melissa and Margaret, etc., and Jackie is on the Teresa panel because apparently Jackie and I think Margaret are in a fight. I think Jackie even said on Watch What Happens Live recently, like, well, I'm not so happy with Margaret these days. So, she's like, I'm not a big fan of her these days. So apparently, like, who'd have ever thought, if this is true, and Ronnie, you could confirm because you're going, how could you imagine that Danielle is on the Melissa Gorga side and Jackie is not with Margaret and that she's actually with Teresa? Does that even make sense?
Nothing really makes sense in this day and age, Ben. Nothing makes sense in this modern world. It does make sense because they've been friends for so long on the show, and it's so rare to find a Housewives where people don't fight, at least have a season of fighting. But also, Jackie is a friend of, and last year when she was friend of for the first year, her first year being friend of, I mean, she was, all this stuff kept coming out during the season saying, Jackie's a friend of. No, actually, Jackie made it to full time. She's not a friend of anymore. She's really, whatever she brought this season was worth it. Now Jackie's back to full time. And then it turned out she wasn't. So I think that inspires some crazy insecurity in somebody. And not saying that her insecurity is the reason for their fighting. I have no idea. But, you have to bring it. You have to bring it. And that usually means either getting wasted or, having some serious trauma or fighting your ass off with somebody. And usually it's going to be your best friend because that's what people want to watch on The Housewives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just generally how that is. So it's not that shocking to me. It's not very smart on either one of their parts if it's real, because I wouldn't fuck with either one of those two, because they know everything about each other, because those two have really had those discussions, like if we were ever the types to really go at it, we know everything about each other, me and you, like, and every shit talk, especially me, I'm the biggest shit talker in the world, you would be able to completely crucify me with all of that stuff, and those two can do that to each other. You gotta be nice to your. If you're going to rely on somebody's ear and their mutual, I don't know, the mutual shit talking that you have with the best friend, you can't just throw that all away and start shit talking each other. What are you two thinking? Get back together. This is not going to end well.
Ronnie, we would have the worst Real Housewives feud, the two of us, because this would be like, I heard that Ronnie crashed his car, and you'd be like, well, I heard that Ben like slapped someone, and I'd be like, no, I didn't do that. I'm so sorry, Ronnie. I really didn't mean to say that. I'm so sorry. And you'd be like, I'm so sorry too. I love you, love you, love you. It'd be
Our
like
fight would be like me writing an anonymous email to Fomoi or Dumois or whatever, and I'd be like,
Fomoi.
I think Ben is mad at me. Love, Ronnie. Please keep this. Not signed from Ronnie. Who could be the worst?
So
You'd be like, I think Ronnie's mad at me.
We would have a terrible.
We'd have the most passive-aggressive, sobby fight.
By the way, someone asked if I'm on Mars. The answer is yes. No, this is the green screen, and I didn't take it down because with my with my appendix, it would have been hard for me.
With your appendix, Ben, I'm really glad you got that in here. That would have been terrible had you made it through an episode without talking about your appendix.
Our new co-host, my former appendix.
We can't even let the appendix go. Those were removed. Do you think we're going to let each other go like that? No, hell no.
My appendix, I like to call it Tom Sandoval because it's toxic and I don't need it. So I think I said that last week. I'm so sorry, everyone. Trotting out
I still like it. It was worth it. It was worth a repeat.
Still worth that. You know, it's for a whole new audience. It's for
guys,
social media.
You never know
now.
who's here live. So should we move to the big story of the day? Because I wouldn't let you before. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking bossy, you know?
I don't care. Who cares? So, okay. Oh, hi, everyone on YouTube. I've been ignoring everyone on YouTube. Ben's appendix. Mike says Ben's appendix and Emily is still a lawyer. That is correct. Okay. So now, and by the way, I also want to say, just for everyone, this is a tease for after this story. I want to hear from Ronnie about who he's excited to potentially see at BravoCon and who he's not. But we're going to get to that. I'm just saying that right now. But I have to say that out loud so I don't forget. Okay, so
Ryan Bailey, Danny Pellegrino, the Bravo Docket ladies,
Olivia Aiden, maybe
Mary Payne. I'm excited to see all the podcasters. Amy Phillips, the Bravo celebrities. I'm terrified of. Okay, so let's.
Okay, so woke up this morning. I'm gonna frame this story in the context of my life. Waking up in the morning. Okay, but this is the context of me. I woke up this morning and in the email there was something from Vanity Fair, like the PR department from Vanity Fair being like, hey, guess what? We just wrote an expose about the Real Housewives. Here are the takeaways. Here's the link. You wanna give it some coverage? So I, of course, click on this link. I'm like, uh-oh, what's this going to be all about? So it's the Vanity Fair bombshell about it's the reality. Here's the headline. Oh, hold on. There's a picture of Bethany Frankel looking like she just went to a funeral for a hamster. Okay. Inside the Real Housewives reckoning that's rocking Bravo. Okay. So this article, everyone's been talking about it. The big thing that everyone's been talking about with this article, of course, and it's not anything that's funny and nothing to be made light of, are allegations. Basically, Ramona Singer saying the N-word, being racially insensitive, creating a hostile environment, which is all really terrible. Like, just really, really terrible.
The details of it are just so Ramona too. Oh my God.
They're so Ramona.
It's
They're
like, okay, so just to make a long story short of just this because there's three main sections, right? There's Leah McSweeney is how it opens. Then it goes to Ebony and Ramona, basically. And then who's the other one? Maybe it's Ramona and
Jill
Ebony,
Zarin.
whatever. Jill Zarin, yeah.
But like, and I want to, and by the way, I'm going to let you summarize this, but what I want to say is that one thing I want to do is I want to talk about the article as a whole, because the article is more than this Ramona section, but I don't want to minimize because this is like this part is like very serious. I
right.
think.
So but just sticking with that, the Ramona thing, it's just so Ramona. So we find out kind of the whole story because I had listened to the Carlos King podcast when Ebony was on, so I'd heard a lot of this through that. So no offense, Vanity Fair, but like a lot of this is like old info. It's not really like crazy.
I mean, that's kind of my TLDR on the entire article, but go on.
But the details of the Ramona thing. So apparently, this is coming from Ebony. Apparently, when Ebony was hired, they had this like racial sensitivity training or something for Real Housewives of New York. Okay, so that's how they started it. It was a phone call that they were all on this group call, and Ramona was saying the dumbest fucking, like the most Ramona things in this phone call. And anybody who's seen that show knows that all of this is true and that Ramona said every stupid thing, you know, like they said one part of sensitivity that we need to be aware of is not to make derogatory stereotypical comments about black people, like for example that they come from fatherless families or something like that. And Ramona's like, why can't we say that? You know, it's true. I looked up a statistic and it's true. It's like, oh my God. Okay, that's where it should have ended. That's where you guys
Yeah.
should have said, this is going to be a disaster. Get fucking rid of Ramona. I mean, are you serious? You're on the
Yeah.
sensitivity call. And then Ramona's response to the article is like, well, it was supposed to be an open dialogue. You know what? And I looked it up on the internet and there was a quote. It's like,
You know what? Like, I'm sorry, I read an article. Like, because as far as I know, all black families only have mothers. I'm sorry, I read in an article, okay? Like, she's saying this stuff. And then the other report is that she basically said to black crew members, like, oh my God, there are like so many of you here. Like, don't cut your hair. Otherwise, I'll never be able to tell you apart. And then she actually defended what she said, saying, no, it's because, you know what? Remember people's faces. Like the other day when I was with Travis Kelsey Grammer on the Watch What Happens Live, I thought it was Jax. I'm sorry, I can't tell people apart, okay?
yeah, I
Bullshit.
just don't know. Everybody knows that. I didn't even know Taylor Swifty's boyfriend. Okay.
Whoa, who would have thought? I thought this person was on Vanderpump Laws. So, yeah, so terrible, terrible stories, unsurprising stories to come out about Ramona. But the rest of the article, so the article starts though, first of all, okay, this article was clearly pitched by Bethany Frankel. It's all about Bethany. It's all about promoting Bethany's thing. Bethany is the first photo here. The fact that it's called Inside the Real Housewives Reckoning, that's rocking Bravo. I don't, like, this is clearly a Bethany thing, right? So this article is talking about all the travesties of the Real House, of like the Real Housewives. And to me, honestly, like outside of the Ramona stuff, a lot of it I'm kind of like, so? It's like, guess what? These people in the Real Housewives, they drink and they get wasted and they're encouraged to do so. And it's like so much like pearl clutching. I'm like, yeah, why do you think we're tuning in? It was to me, it like read as this like shockingly, like not puritanical, but like huffy piece that's like, oh, I can't believe this. I'm like, these are grown adults. I'm sorry. These are people a lot of times in their 40s and 50s who have full agency over their lives and they're choosing to do this. And it's almost like trying to take the network to task. I mean, the network is shady for sure, but it's kind of like, are you coming for our entertainment when like, we know this. We're here to see the mess. We're here to see how messy people react in society, in public, in polite society. And now, like, we're supposed to be like, oh, heavens.
Drinking,
Leah McSweeney.
women drinking. Women can't control themselves around alcohol. They're just women, and that's what that's what bothered me. That's what the thing I got. Like women just have no agency and cannot control themselves. And this is written by a woman, by the way. And I'm not saying it's necessarily her. She's just reporting, and she wrote it. I mean, it's well written, but the ideas behind it seem to be like, oh my God, these women have no control over themselves, and it's the fault of the network for making them want to be famous or for dangling fame, and they just can't take it. They're just these weak-willed people who can't fucking help themselves, and that really bugged me. And this is the problem I had with Leah on her season, and it's mostly this whole thing is very Leah too. This whole article, the whole first section is Leah, and it's how Leah has no agency in anything. Everything was done to her. She's a huge victim of Bravo. She was sober before she came on Bravo, and then being on Bravo pressured her to go fall back into alcoholism, and then they guilted her the next season when she came off sober, and it was so hard, but she had to do it for the fame and the money. But then they offered her girls trip and hinted that she might be offered a new season of Real Housewives, or no, Legacy, because at that point it was already Legacy. So they kind of dangled that and said, Andy said, well, we'll see how you do on Girls Trip. So then Girls Trip, she had a meltdown, she had a panic attack, she had to go to the hospital, she was fighting. Now, listen, I'm not ragging on anybody for mental health stuff, okay? I'm someone who suffers.
And Bravo
from it.
is shady. Bravo is shady. Reality TV is shady and toxic.
But she's literally blaming them for everything. So then she finds out she's going to the hospital. She's threatening Bravo with all of this stuff. So then they don't bring her back on Legacy. They don't cast her for Legacy. Well, you've obviously got issues that are hindering your ability to film, basically, right? So they didn't say that necessarily. They just didn't hire her. So then she turns around and sues Bravo for the over the Americans with Disabilities Act, saying that she has a disability, mental health is a disability, and they are firing her for a. I mean, you're
So
also blaming them. You're also blaming them
Well, there was-
for causing a lot of this. So how are you going to
Well, there
blame
was
them
also
for
this
causing
part-
it, but then also sue them for not allowing you to continue it? It's just like you have no
And there was this-
agency.
And there, I'm like getting fired up. There was also a part where she talks about her grandma. Like that was a very sad, thing. Like her grandma was dying, and she said, and like they're like the article. It says they offered to get me a car, but I can tell that they didn't want me to. I was like, well, you can't base this all off of a vibe that you could tell or whatever.
I could tell. They wrote her emails. They wrote her texts and said, whatever you need to do, you don't have to come. Whenever you need to go, we have a car waiting for you. Whatever, they send her all the, there's written proof of all this stuff, and she goes, yeah, they did, but I felt like, and I don't like it because it's using insinuations of consent and a lot of stuff that's been in the public. We've been talking about this stuff for the past few years as a society, and to be using issues of consent and dragging them into the Bravo workplace environment when you are choosing to not go to your grandma's bedside to shoot these scenes, and then you're using consent language is just icky. It's disgusting, dude. I don't like it at all. And we had the right call on that one.
And I think what I really didn't like about this article, and I could have an incorrect read on this, that's fine. But what I didn't like about this article is that it read very much like someone who does not watch these shows, who got a press release from Bethany and was like, oh, there could be a story here, decides to dip into this world, sees this, and was like, oh my God, I can't believe they would do this to people, and is shocked, and all of a sudden is writing this panicked piece about people drinking, and it's like, lady, you just got here. Now, the other thing is, I think as an article, it's extremely sloppy because who are the primary sources? It's Leah, it's Ebony, and it's Jill Zarin and Bethany. I'm not saying that like it's bad to use those, but it's such a one-dimensional way to approach an expose about the Real Housewives. You're talking specific about people who are only on one show. And yes, I still believe Bravo's shady, but you're going to say this is rocking the Real Housewives when there are actually multiple shows. Just as a journalist, why are you not reaching out to people from other shows? Like, it just was sloppy. It just felt so one-dimensional. And that's why it really felt like, oh, this is just Bethany. This is Bethany. Like, this is Bethany's frame of reference is RHONJ. When she had Raquel on, she's like, I didn't watch your show. Okay. And I started watching because I knew you were coming on, and I watched it. I was like, oh my God. And Bethany had the same tone where she was like outraged about something that she knew nothing about. So it just bothers me that an article like this comes out as clickbait and is kind of trying to take down a show, like shows that we all love. It's not saying I am like down with what Ramona did or how she acted. It's not to say I'm like down with exploiting people.
Well, you have to separate.
It just feels like clickbait.
We have to separate the Ramona stuff from everything else because the Ramona stuff is fucking disgusting. She should have been fired before they even shot the season. She's a disaster. I definitely agree with the article that it's ridiculous that Ramona is back again. She's back for Legacy. She was on Girls Trip. She's doing another something or other for them. She's on Watch What Happens Live sitting on Andy's lap. All this. No, ma'am. No. I know that people are like, oh my God, it's so funny. She's just a crazy Ramona. No. There comes a point where that's just not okay. I think that Ramona
I think she'll be done
gone.
after this.
I think Ramona should be fucking gone. I think it's disgusting that she's still on. Now, that said, the other stuff, I'm like, listen, the drinking, they also have a point when they say that this show does profit off of people's misery. Well, duh. Welcome to reality TV. But I'm not going to disagree with that. They do let people like
this
they
is not
mention
unique
Sonia
to the
a
Real
lot.
Housewives.
They mention Sonia a lot. How Sonia constantly has alcohol and drug problems on the show, and that the producers are writing back like, so how do we film it, or how do we, how are we going to address it when she finally hits rock bottom? Stuff like that. And, that is dark. But at the same time, what are they supposed to do? You can't just commit somebody anymore. That's not how it works,
Yeah. This article also just feels so late. Like a like admitted like they fired the cast. They fired all of RHONJ. They're done. Like even though there is legacy, yes, they still have a platform. Legacy's not the same. Yeah, there is a point because Ramona was just on Watch Happens Live. She will be on Legacy.
It's Ramona.
But I guess I'm going to say right now, I think this is going to be the end of Ramona. I think that this is too much egg on Bravo's face. That will be it. But like this article is acting like, what do we do with these? Like, can you believe this toxic environment? I'm like, yeah, they fired them all. Like they're already the repercussions happened for
one of the most interesting things to me is that most of it, besides the Ramona stuff, the rest of it basically focused on alcoholism, and it focused pretty much. It was saying that everything is getting these people to drink, right? And that was the main allegation I felt. But the kind of overarching, or is it arching or arcing? Overarching, I guess. I guess one of the main points that kept coming up over and over, the Anna Peel, I believe is her name, who wrote this. I like that she kept asking them, but then why do you go back? Like the main question is, if this happened to you, Leah, then why do you keep going back? And Leah, as well as everyone in here that I read, said it's so addictive. It's like it's the worst thing to ever happen to you because there's so much negativity and so many people coming against you and calling you names and the misogyny and the this and the that and the alcohol and the producers fucking with you and all this. But at the same time, you're famous and you're like, I need this, And they all talk about how addicted they are to it, And I thought it was interesting why you're accusing this show of, fostering addictions that you really are, because they're all addicted to being on it and they would all go back in a second. I mean, Ebony said, I think it was on Carlos King when he was interviewing her, and he was saying, I didn't like that you kept bringing social justice into every conversation. And she said, well, that was because it was my season 1 and I felt a responsibility to do that. But you bring me back for season 2 and I won't do that. I'll bring the fighting and the drama, whatever else you want. And so I thought that was interesting because I'm like, okay, so you're saying bring you back for season 2, but everyone's fighting against it. But also Leah would do another season. She sued them to do another season, So
yeah,
it's interesting. It's like your worst enemy, but you also just need it,
Yeah, I just didn't like this article because it didn't feel. It didn't feel thorough to me, and I don't feel like the takeaways were like revolutionary. I like the takeaway is Bravo, Bravo is shady. Bravo, oh, Ramona's terrible, but Bravo keeps bringing her back. It's like, yeah, we have eyeballs. We see this. We've seen this. Not saying we approve of it, but like we see clearly, Bravo's gonna follow like who its like moneymakers are, or who's like has created like a story or fascination with them. Probably not anymore with Ramona, but I just felt like this felt like a hit piece on Bravo, and
well, the Bethany quotes are really the best. At one point she says something like she was reading the contract and there's a part in the contract which is basically saying we have the right to embarrass you, make you look like an idiot, take everything you say out of context, use it against you. I mean, they really spell it out. And Bethany says something along the lines of like, and I thought I can handle this. I really am a different breed, which is so Bethany to say. So then, she says later, you can't be the leader of the universe and then act like you don't know what's going on in it, Frankel says of Andy Cohen. I was part of it, Frankel says. I wanted to be Andy's favorite. I loved that I was Andy's favorite. I loved that I was able to make good television and produce it at the same time. I loved that the producers knew I was the best. I was in the machine. I was the machine. I created the machine. Are you fucking kidding? Sit down, Bethany, okay? Go back to your fucking makeup reviews on TikTok and giving away like makeup to people you consider too poor to afford it at the TJ Maxx. Shut the hell up, you created it. I cannot with her.
Yeah, but that being said, I think Ebony had like my favorite quote of the article. This is the best part of it. So it's just a little parenthetical in the article. It says, presented with the idea that she might participate in Frankel's organizing, Ebony K. Williams said, fuck Bethany Frankel. You think I'm going to let some white girl speak for me with my experience with a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Thank you, Ebony. That was the funniest. That was the best thing you ever said. That was great. Exactly. Yeah, I just thought it was a sloppy article, and it's a thing that gets people who don't watch these shows into a tizzy, and it's the sort of thing that gets people writing letters. It's the sort of thing that could like get some person who's totally disconnected from it on like the FCC to crack down on something. It's just I don't know. I think it's irresponsible.
Listen,
and I
if The
think it's not
Bachelor is
fair.
still around, I don't think that Bravo's in trouble. I think Bravo is actually shockingly doing better than ever in a lot of ways. And, I think that just like the reality reckoning Bethany's thing, I think she's got some points there. I think that people are used in the wrong way. The points we
But
made
it just comes in
earlier,
such a
it's
self-serving
just-
place from Bethany.
Yes,
It's so
exactly.
self-serving from
It
her.
comes from Leah, who would do it again in a heartbeat and even admits that she's completely addicted. And then, it comes from
And I
Leah.
personally
Then it's
like
come-
Leah
and
on this
Jill
show.
Zarin saying, oh, they tricked me into this Bobby's funeral thing. I had no idea they were going to film. And Bravo's like, she asked us. She had her publicist asking us if we would film. They were even trying to do, Zarin wanted to do a Shiva. She wanted to shoot a Shiva with a crew member from there, sitting Shiva.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, come on. And then she says where she really felt blindsided was that yes, she wanted that, but she only wanted it if it was going to be a tribute to Bobby on television because he would have loved that. But she would have demanded that she be paid, $100,000 or 10 grand or 100 grand. I don't even remember, or 100 grand to Bobby's charity or something. If she knew that they were going to use it as this, clickbaity, like Bethany and Jill finally talk again.
Yeah.
Like, Jill, you can't
Listen,
you can't be thirsty and then complain when somebody brings you the lemonade. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
reminds me, don't be rude to your waiters, everybody.
listen. Bethany is the one who said you can't be stupid and smart at the same time, or whatever the version of that quote was. And Bethany says, "Oh, I'm smart. I'm smart. I'm smart." She has her own reality show. She like tortures people who want to like be her VP of something or another. She's on Shark Tank. She has her own spin-off. She's been around the block, and she's a very smart and shrewd person. And she is, I think she is taking something that is true, that there is toxicity in the world of reality TV, and she is exploiting it to try to make herself the leader of a movement. And she has pitched this article, and she found a sucker in this writer. Unfortunately, you can tell that that's what this is all about, because there's not even an effort to interview anyone else on a different franchise, really. Like a little
Well,
bit.
hell
Like a little
hath
bit.
no fury like a skinny girl scorned.
I just think,
that's
you know
why I
what,
don't
like-
fuck with skinny girls. I don't ever scorn them. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, like, how about we talk about the toxic abuses that happen in scripted television or on other TV shows too? I mean, not to
Well,
do,
they
not to
do.
what
They
about,
do in this
not about
article.
whataboutism.
She does go into that at the end of the article. She's like, this is what happened on other shows like The Bachelor and The Real World and stuff like that. But of course, look, this one, I'm all for exposing the wrongs of whatever's happening, but expose some wrongs. This one we've been waiting for. It was reported that it was a deeply reported article. It's the same shit we've heard a zillion times. I heard a couple new details from Ebony, but otherwise it's stuff we've already heard.
Yeah.
And this quote was cracking me up because it's so clear who this is. Have I been put through the ringer? This is someone anonymous. Have I been put through the ringer? 100%. Still better than my worst day withering away at a life of quiet desperation. At BravoCon, when she went to last year's BravoCon, a 3-day convention attended by 30,000 or so fans, she turned to two former fellow Bravo celebrities and said, "How do I ever be happy after this?" Who do you think said it? Who do you think said that?
Lying in quiet desperation. Well, the way you said it, it sounds sort of like Heather Gay, but I don't think.
I think it's Heather Gay. I was not
I don't know.
trying to do
Singing
Heather
quiet
Gay,
desperation.
but it sounds to me exactly like
Because
Heather
she's
Gay.
the sort of person who would say that. But also, Heather Gay is a chameleon when people ask questions. Like, if someone said, "Aren't you miserable?" "I'm so miserable." And someone says, "Aren't you so happy?" "I'm so happy that I'm here." So
She's also a
I don't
tell-all
know.
writer, like I'm listening to her book right now, Heather Gay's book. Go listen. It's actually good. I shouldn't say that shocked. That sounds rude, but it's actually enjoyable. And I'm listening to it on Audible so I can hear her doing it. It's really good. But anyway, I think maybe it's because I'm listening to that, but I was like, this is totally Heather. I mean, it's totally how she sounds in that book. And also, she wrote that tell-all about the Mormon church. I think maybe she was just not going on the record for this one because she's got her own damn tell-all. And I'm surprised it's taken everybody so long to get on the tell-all bandwagon for Bravo.
yeah,
But they're doing it. And I'll read them
So that
all.
being said, I will say I think this is a bad article, but I mean, and I'm also disappointed because the writer Anna Peel had a great article about Love Island, sort of a similar thing about like mental health issues on Love Island. But on that one, she went and she really, she like discussed various different seasons, different cast members, and it just felt comprehensive. And this one, like, I don't know, I feel like she dropped the ball on this one. And I'm like very disappointed. I don't like when people come for my entertainment and like don't provide me something new. Like all they do is like whip up frenzy, but that's it. Like that's like I don't appreciate that. The Ramona stuff is like disturbing and terrible. Someone here said really she should have just focused on Ramona and Ebony in that situation, and it would have been a much stronger article. But I think this tried to be much bigger and broader than it was. And you know what I say? Better luck next time. I don't know why I'm doing it in a Ramona voice, but
Well, you know what? Let's wrap this up on the YouTube live and then just keep this going on Instagram to take some Instagram live viewers.
let's do it.
Listeners,
So everyone,
Crappeners.
thank you everyone on
Carol
YouTube.
Deans.
Thank you for being here, and also everyone who is listening on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Come join us on Instagram Live if you want to be part of the interactive part. So everyone on Instagram Live, just stay there. I'm just gonna hit stop on YouTube. Bye, YouTube. Everyone on YouTube.
Bye.